Hello, and welcome to the Flows Bros podcast. I am Matt.
Welcome to Florum. Oh, hi, I'm Sam. We're pirates. We don't even know what that means.
Open fire. We got a lot going on this week, collecting wise. Well, not action figures much, I guess. Mainly just Lego collecting, Star Wars, just everything with the holiday special coming out. I don't know what your thoughts about that were, but we're going to get into it. Mando.
And I have some updates from a certain point of view.
Oh. I hope you guys liked that segment that we had last episode. When Sam and I discuss this book, it's not my favorite thing to talk about, but Sam just is so passionate about these off-kilter stories that should not have to be explained, but are.
If you want to know how Luke Skywalker's feet got stuck in the ceiling of the Wampa Cave, then this is your segment. So stick around because I will be explaining things about green rabbits, Dosk's sister, and Ugnaughts running out of Cloud City. So stick around.
Once again, there are just certain things that I don't need explained, but we will get into it later on in the episode. So stick around, my friends. Stick around. Alrighty.
Well, let's jump into it. This week in merchandise news, we have Lego. Last week, we talked about Lego Star Wars, the Mandalorian Encounter on Tatooine, I believe is what it's called. In that set, it'll be Beskar Mando, the child, and a Tusken Raider with a speeder bike, Tusken Raider hut, and the ballista. So it's just like the big crossbow that they use in the first episode of season 2. We got some clear images of that this week. $30. What do you think, Matt?
Well, last episode, we briefly talked about the leaks. Still, my one critique remains, there just aren't enough figures in the set. I need at least another Tusken Raider. Cobb Vanth would have been awesome to have as a figure, but alas, we only have these 3. But I will say, I think this is going to sell like hotcakes because of that Mando and the price of this set. To get Baby Yoda and to get Mando at $30, the cheapest you can get those 2 figures, the main characters from the Mandalorian series, nobody's going to pass that up, especially my favorite part of the set, arm printing. That arm printing is so good. So good. They must be listening to my Lego reviews. They must be. I talked about that Darth Vader arm printing for like half the video when I did my Bespin Duel review.
That is a very interesting point you bring up. I know we talked about it last week, but it's worth reiterating that they probably didn't know that Cobb Vanth was going to be in that episode, and they knew that Mando was going to Tatooine, and those were in the EW pictures that we saw. We saw him on the speeder bike, and we saw Tuskens in the EW articles. So I'm guessing that Lego really didn't know that much. There might be a follow-up set sometime in later 2021 with a Cobb Vanth speeder bike and another Tusken or a Bantha or something like that. That would be really cool to see part 2 of that set.
They won't do it, but it would be crazy if they made a giant crate dragon. That'd be epic. Eating a Bantha?
Like the T-Rex in that Jurassic Park set?
Yeah, exactly. But you don't see the other like part of it. It's just like coming out of the mountain. Because you never saw the legs or the like body of it until they're cutting it open. But even then, does it even have legs?
I don't believe so.
Interesting. So it's just a big snake.
Yeah, I thought of it like the basilisk from Harry Potter, from the Chamber of Secrets. That's the way I saw it. The smaller crate dragons in EU and some of the other stuff had legs. Did you ever play the Bounty Hunter game with Jango Fett?
No, but I watched my friend play a little bit of that when I was younger, which I would have loved to have had. I think it came from the PS2. Did it?
Yeah.
I always watched him play it on the GameCube for some reason, and I didn't register that you could get it for something like the PS2. Like, I thought it was only for the GameCube because I was dumb when I was young. I think that was even before I even had a game system to begin with.
Yeah, well, in that game, you feed Ardula the Hutt to a crate dragon. Like, she makes you fight the crate dragon, and then you push her off her pedestal and feed her to the crate dragon. But that's a smaller crate dragon. That's the example I was going to use for that. Gotcha. The only part of that game I remember is that part, so don't ask me any more trivia about that. Anyway.
We should do a live play of that. That'd be so much fun.
On top of Squadrons and Lego Star Wars, the complete Skywalker saga. All the content. Oh, we got some Lego reveals as far as the Lego art stuff, which is like the pop culture kind of stuff with the art of studs. Never mind.
What were you going to say? Where were you going?
I was going to be like, it's not champion horses. It's, anyway.
I don't even get that reference. I don't even understand that.
Because they're studs. Like, they're like, okay.
Oh, I understand. So like the stuff that came out with Iron Man and all the different Star Wars ones that connect together and make this big Darth Vader.
There was also the Beatles one and a Marilyn Monroe one that came out this year.
I like the Marilyn Monroe one, honestly.
I mean, the thing that's rough is it's $90 per mural. Like if you wanted to have all the Beatles, for example, you're paying quite a bit of money for that. Or the Darth Vader one to get the 4 parts connected to have that giant mural.
I don't know if you feel the same way or not, but as a mock builder, for the people who don't know our Lego terminology, mock stands for my own creation, which means anything that you could build yourself out of Lego that isn't a set. And for me, being a mock builder, I would rather build my own work of art rather than something that Lego has for me to buy pre-made. I don't know if you would feel the same way or not.
To spend that much time to build that, I believe I'm the same way. You know, I've seen some people try live stream building that, and they've just been how frustrating it is to go row by row across the whole base plate.
Did you see the new Coliseum set as well?
Yeah, that is a very interesting set. The largest Lego set now. It's crazy that is bigger than the Millennium Falcon, but $200 cheaper than the Falcon.
I don't think it's larger. I think it's smaller in size, but it has a lot of smaller pieces, like the architecture sets. I couldn't imagine building this though because of how repetitive that siding looks. It looks so boring to build.
I need to blow my nose. I'm just editing this out.
No, Sam, this is staying.
I was sniffling through this whole first part and I just...
Oh. Sam's very broken up about something.
I'm broken up because Matt doesn't like the holiday special. Anyway, yeah, murals. They're really cool. And I think that it'd be neat to see some Star Wars ones come back. I think they could do like a droids one, for example. I could see them doing like BB-8, R2, and Dio. It's just trying to find all those similar colors. Like the Sith one was pretty easy. It's all blacks and reds. Are there any murals you'd like to see them make?
Like I said, being not a big fan of them, it's something that I really, sounds terrible, don't really care about. But I think the droid one would make the most sense from the way the colors could look, I think. You know, you have that gold, blue, and orange. That's really all it is. You could make C-3PO using those colors. And white, of course. That's the most likely if they ever did any more. But I don't know how well they're selling as well. I don't know if a lot of people are getting them or not. And that, of course, goes into whether Lego will make more sets like that.
They've been on back order along with a lot of other things. I know the Sith one for sure has been on back order. As far as other stuff in the Lego shop, I'm pretty sure they're on back order. So like a lot of other things, like you're dealing with the Cantina and I've been dealing with the AT-AT trying to get it from Lego.com. It's rough, especially around Christmas when people are trying to get specific things for people.
What do you think of those Harry Potter crests?
Oh, that's really cool. It's not my cup of tea, but I love to go to a Lego store and look at them. Like I can't afford them, and it's like the architecture sets as well. Don't have the space for them, but I sure do love going to the Lego store and looking at them.
If I wasn't as creative as I am, you're the same way. I would love to hang something like that on my wall, more than a poster. Especially if you're a big Harry Potter fan, you get all the crests. That'd be pretty cool.
And it makes you look cultured.
The Minnie and Mickey one is also for a Disney fan. These are definitely for the people that glue their puzzles together and then hang them on the wall. That is the perfect, okay, I figured it out. That makes sense now. This set is what those people need in their life.
As someone who is currently building a puzzle that is very, very difficult with my girlfriend, we are going to be gluing said puzzle together. It's a giant one of the Battle of Hoth. So many blues and whites that we didn't expect. Little tiny people. Oh, it's really rough. It's a project, and it's currently taking up the entire coffee table. But anyway, you talk about Harry Potter, so I guess we talk about the new Harry Potter sets coming out. It's in the style of a book that then opens up into a classroom. There are 4 of them for each crest. Some really cool minifigs coming out with those. So there's the herbology classroom with a new Professor Sprout. Even though we got Professor Sprout in the collectible minifig line this last round. She has legs this time instead of a printed skirt.
Woo, legs!
I mean, yeah, exactly. It's the same headpiece. Everything except for the legs is exactly the same as the CMF one.
Interesting.
From what I could see. Yeah.
It's just amazing that they can change one small detail and it's a completely exclusive figure.
Well, I think all the figures in that set are exclusive. I believe the Cedric Diggory and the Neville Longbottom. So yeah, that's one that interests me as well. And then there's the Transfiguration Classroom with Professor McGonagall, which is one that definitely the most interesting one to me. Professor McGonagall really hasn't had a very cool figure yet. Like they haven't figured out the hair piece and how to do that. It's now like a really cool headpiece with hair and her witch's hat. I definitely recommend that one when it comes out in January. And then there's the Slytherin one with the potions classroom with Snape. And then the last one is the Ravenclaw one with Professor Flitwick, played by Warwick Davis.
Has he been the actor with the most, I would say, unique Lego characters created from him? I think you can find him in pretty much every single character that he's played throughout the various movies he's been involved with.
Yeah, I was actually looking at my collection the other day of how many Warwick Davis figures I have. Like, I was like, which actor do I have the most minifigs of? I think Warwick Davis is probably it. I've like 3 or 4 Wickets and Weasel.
Why do you have so many Wickets?
There's that many of them. And I went through a phase in my life where I wanted to collect a bunch of Ewoks.
For these books, I like them. I'm not much of a Harry Potter fan. I watched the movies just recently. I thought they were good, but as big of a Star Wars Lego collector that I am, I just don't have the space to add more things to it. But I think these would be cool to actually put on a bookshelf. As a creative individual, I feel like it would be just something to offset your display. They're interesting looking. Playability wise, I would say they're lacking. I think they're cool that they open up and are integrated with the set. It's not necessarily something that you're going to get to place on a shelf like this, I would say.
And I'm wondering what the stability of the book when it's closed is like.
You're basically getting these sets for the figures. That's my read on it.
And each one seems to have one figure that pretty well driven. Like the worst one as far as diversity of figures, it's probably the Slytherin one. But it has a Finnegan with a messed up face. Because, you know, in all the movies, he has stuff blow up in his face. It has him with a messed up, like, charred up face. But it has a lot of cool accessories in it. So they all seem to balance out. Remains to be seen. I know our friend Vic will get it, and we'll get the full review in January.
We have to bring him on sometime.
He's going to steal the show.
We can have specific, like, Vic necessary episodes with Pops, Harry Potter, Lego collecting. He knows a lot that we don't know about certain pop culture things. I feel like we could use his knowledge for special Plus Bros podcast editions.
Yeah. He's going to have his own sideshow where he explains anime plots to us.
Yes, that would be a great show. That would be hilarious. People would love that. We could like play a game where it's like anime or made up. I've seen people do that before. It's really funny. Wasn't there something else Lego related that we wanted to talk about? Or was that
the holiday special? Let's start off with the negative review and then we'll talk about my positive review. My mediocre review. Not positive, mediocre review.
Are you sure we don't want the positivity first?
Okay, well, I thought it was really nice for what it was. I didn't go into this thinking I was going to get a new sequel trilogy or another hour of The Rise of Skywalker or anything like that. I knew I was going into this getting... I
don't know if I want that any more than this.
I knew I was just getting something lighthearted and something that was in the universe with Lego, and that's what we got. I thought it was funny. It had some comedic moments. The thing that was sad was that they used a lot of their laughs in the trailer, especially the Palpatine line of less talky, more fighty. I thought that would have been a lot funnier having not seen it in the trailer. I was at work watching it, so we were sitting in the truck and I was just watching.
I'm just imagining all these other buff dudes looking at you and what you're watching and questioning your sanity.
Well, we had gotten a large storm here and I was on overtime and we were just sitting in the truck for work, waiting for more work. Like, well, I got an hour to kill, so I'll watch the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special. Yeah, everyone else was sleeping and I was just hanging out in the driver's seat, sitting there
Perfect
watching
timing.
it. I think we got a lot of cool, interesting molds, too, of new characters. Like, I would love to see a new Rose.
The Babu Frick. Yeah. I would love a Lego figure of.
And the baby figure size. Seeing all that stuff, I think, it wasn't meant for me. It wasn't gauged towards me, but if someday when I have kids, I will watch the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special because it's meant for kids. So
a part of me always wants to believe that it's going to be made for everybody because that's how I look at Star Wars, how I look at Lego as well. And I wish they would have more of a lighthearted feel for everyone, not just kids. I had a similar experience with Rebels where I liked it, but they could have taken a bit of a darker turn with it and made it for everyone, but it was just too lighthearted. And we kind of touched on that last week when we talked about Ezra a bit. It just didn't feel as authentically Star Wars, and that's how I felt about the holiday special. What I did like, and I will talk about that, what I did like about the holiday special is some of the smaller references that did get a laugh out of me. specifically McClunky. That made me laugh because it's like such a Star Wars deep dive reference. I like that. I like that they talked about Darth Vader getting the mug from Galaxy's Edge on Batu. That was cool. That made me laugh as a real hardcore Star Wars fan. What I didn't enjoy was how, I guess, unrealistic it felt from a more canonical perspective. And that's how I like to look at Star Wars. I have a hard time looking at things when it doesn't fit into the swath of movies, books, TV shows. So I struggled with that, like wanting it to fit into everything. And I said it before, time travel is hard for me to wrap my head around. It just hurts my brain. I didn't know how I felt about that. I saw a really good meme the other day with Obi-Wan and Anakin in the elevator with Rey sticking her head down in the Lego version, and then another photo of someone photoshopping Rey's head into the elevator sequence with Anakin and Obi-Wan and giving Anakin some flowers. I want it to be for everyone. I don't want it to be just for kids, and I think that's what Star Wars and Lego can both do. But this was just too childish for me.
And that's fair. And I respect that opinion. I'm on the fence. It wasn't something I was super for or super against. It's just, it exists, and I'm happy it exists for those people who really like it. It just wasn't catered for me. Oh, when you're talking about Rebels not being graphic enough, I just want to be like, yeah, then there's that scene in season 1 where they just cut 2 guys' heads off. They go from Ezra falling everywhere to the Inquisitor just comes up and just cuts 2 guys' heads off.
I know, and that's what bothered me too. It's like, pick, which direction are we going here? Let's pick a theme. Let's just figure out what we're doing and make it all match. And that was like the darkest moment of the show. It's in season 1. Rebels has its moments.
For sure.
It has its place in the Star Wars canon and universe, but I don't think the holiday special Lego edition does. I would like to see a live action holiday special that takes itself as seriously as the original holiday special.
Well, and I believe that the reason that didn't happen is a lot of the difficulty to get Daisy Ridley and John Boyega and all these actors back. This week, some things have changed. I know that a lot of people reached out to him after it, a lot of his castmates and stuff, and he's now starting to move back towards the likeness of him returning as Finn someday.
Well, that's good.
We'll see. I'm happy to see him at least getting some good attention for his role.
I think he needs to find some peace with himself and that role and the fan base and corporate. There are so many politics and nuances that go into being a Star Wars actor. I'm sure it's not easy. Like we could sit here as fans and say, oh, I would love to play a role in Star Wars, but at the end of the day, probably really difficult. There's one more thing I want to touch on.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. This week has been a big week for me personally. I received a package in the mail from one of my loyal TikTok followers. Napoleon Bonesworthy is his name. Go check him out on TikTok. He sent me, you won't believe it, I don't know why. He must really enjoy my content. He's a good guy. He makes amazing chalk art. He's a really good guy. He deserves a lot more love than he gets. He's a grown man, a grown adult with kids, I presume. And he said that he had one of these in storage. He thought he had 2, and he was going to send me 2, but he sent me 1 because he could only find 1. And the reason he wanted to send me 2 was because he wanted me to open 1 and keep 1 in the package, because he knows how a collector like me feels, right? You're afraid to open this. I'm afraid to open this. I don't know if I want to.
I'd be happy to open it for you. You can feel free to bring it over to my house.
From a collector's perspective, I'd rather leave it in the package, not even for reselling purposes. I would never resell this. I would never resell or give away anything that a fan sends me. So feel free to send me anything that you want. But honestly, from a collector's perspective, I like that this is in the package. It feels more valuable to me. It's the same reason I keep my Pops and my other action figures in the boxes. But yes, I would love to open it and review it. I just don't know if I can yet. There's no going back once you do it. That's the problem. I saw how much that was worth online, and that kind of blew my mind. Secondly, not only that, but my lovely girlfriend, Kristen, she went to the Lego store today in New York City. She called ahead of time, bless her soul, to get me the Mos Eisley Cantina. And I will be paying her back, of course. I was shocked that she found it. And on the perfect day when Lego was having their double VIP points and giving away other free VIP sets, like the Lego brick, that teal looking Lego brick, I got that. I got the Christmas Carol with the book, which is really cool. I'm so excited to unbox that and review it for you guys on this channel. And there was some other couple smaller sets. There was one of these with it as well for free, other freebies. I was shocked. I got like $30 in VIP points with it. I was lucky. I was so lucky, and I'm so grateful for her. So shout out to my girlfriend, Kristen. It's been a big week. And then this guy over here, he goes and he gets me an awesome shirt, Plos Bros, for my birthday. So thank you, Sam. You're lovely.
Totally, dude. We were talking before we started recording that my awesome girlfriend tried getting my Christmas present today because I've been wanting the AT-AT, and they're out of stock everywhere. We're really feeling the pain. I was hoping to get the Christmas Carol set.
My heart goes out.
Yeah. This morning was like an early morning, like real downer because we wanted the double VIP points for it. But she got me the Slave One, so it's a win-win, you know. Anyway.
Yeah. You know what matters is she loves you so much that she's willing to go out there, support your Lego, not addiction, but passion. And that's what's important. And knowing that there's so much care there. If you have any relationship troubles, comment them down below. Sam and I will be here for you.
My girlfriend and I build Lego together. So I said, we have 2 sets to build together. So I was like, it's a win-win for us. We build the Slave One, and then in a month, we build the AT-AT together. And then we buy another AT-AT and bake it into a crane.
And you didn't have a Slave One before, right?
No, I have all the minifigs from it, except for the Leia, like the 20th anniversary Leia.
So you're going to send me that Boba Fett?
I was going to just tease you with the Zuckuss and be like, oh, I have 2 Zuckuss now. Now everyone's going to send you a Zuckuss, so you're going to have like 40 Zuckusses, so...
I would love that. If anybody wants to send me a Zuckuss, by all means, but no pressure. That's the thing. Like, I don't want people to feel pressured to send me stuff for my Matt's Mail Time segments on TikTok. Feel free to send me anything. Even when I opened up my P.O. box, I wanted it to specifically be letters. Like, that's what I envisioned. I didn't envision anybody in a million years sending me one of these babies. It blows my mind how kind people can be. It makes me very hopeful, right? It's a very uplifting idea that people are willing to give and be kind, especially during the holiday season.
Correct. And given the state of the world.
Exactly.
Well, you ready to talk about Mando? Or do you have any other surprises?
I got nothing else up my sleeve.
A general overview. What do you think of Mando this week?
It's hard, and we very briefly discussed this before. It's hard with these setup episodes to really be all for them. We started off with episode 1 of season 2, chapter, 9? Amazing, right? That was mind-blowing Star Wars action, excitement. It opened up the door for canon with the return of such an amazing character. And
Commander Bly.
Yes. And it integrated something else from the canon, which is the Aftermath books, and it brought it in, it put it on the big screen in your living room, since we no longer have really big screens in the theaters. You know, that as a story is hard to beat with these follow-up episodes. Getting Bo-Katan last week was great. And for a lot of people who were expecting to get Ahsoka this week, I think they're probably struggling a little bit more than we are, who were prepared. I think next week's going to be great. This week was not a downer, but it's a setup. And it's hard to be so excited about it. There were a lot of good points, though. There were a lot of moments that I really enjoyed and I can get behind. I think Carl Weathers did an amazing job as a director. I was looking out for that as well. Is there anything different about the way this episode feels?
My overall was very positive. I think that it was an enjoyable episode, mostly because I was happy to just return to people that we knew. Like we weren't seeing new people and new places. And we saw Pelly in the first 2 episodes and whatever, like she's a returning character. But like Grief Karga and Cara Dune being characters we've already known, seeing more of Moff Gideon, that was just really nice because that's like the base story. That's the story that not that I super care about. I care about everything overall, but seeing that storyline on Navarro, and I feel comfortable with that. So it was nice returning to that.
Feels like you're going home.
Yeah, and for him it was. And I texted you earlier this week because I was like, if they're going back to Navarro, is he going to run back into the armorer again? I was really wondering going in this episode if the armorer was going to return, if she had left Navarro. And I think we got a pretty good answer to that in the first scene on Navarro when the Aqualish were trying to kill the fire squirrel. Did you see the concept art though that squirrel thing was supposed to breathe fire? In the credit shows the Aqualish trying to hold onto that squirrel thing and it's breathing fire on them.
I think that would pose quite the challenge for the creature people, for those designers. I don't know how they would make a Ponda Baba head not flammable. They could always CGI it, I suppose.
I like those Aqualish heads much more than like the one in Row One was really rough.
It was so big.
And also it's the same thing in the sequel trilogy with the way that the Celestins are. Their heads are so big because I understand in the original trilogy it was a puppet the whole time, but
still, not the whole time. You had the costume at the end of the Battle of Endor when they're dancing around the fire with Nien Nunb. That wasn't a puppet, but I know what you're saying. I do. I hear you. It's hard to make a creature where it doesn't look like it's a person underneath. And to me, these Aqualish felt a bit more realistic.
They looked more like the ones from the Separatist Council in the prequels than they did the ones in the original trilogy. The more hairy ones, I would say, I guess.
That scene specifically, at first I was wondering, why do we have to be here? And then the stuff with Cara Dune at the end of the episode, however you want to pronounce her name, I think that linked up to it in a way. Strangely enough, this was more about her than like Carl Weathers as Grief Karga. I don't know.
We'll talk about later on about the future of that character because the controversy surrounding the actress and the things going on, I don't know what we're going to see of that character in the future or if they'll recast her or whatever. So we'll talk about that here.
I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll get into it.
Yeah, so the episode starts out with Mando letting Baby Yoda fix the Razor Crest with the red wire and blue wire thing.
That was so good. I loved that. I was laughing the entire time. That night was terrible. I lost my login to Premiere Pro and my entire Adobe Creative Cloud. It was just not good. I shut my laptop very angrily. I said, you know what? I'm just going to go downstairs. I'm going to watch Mando. I'm going to feel better. So I went downstairs to watch Mando, and that scene was the first scene that came on, and that made me feel a lot better about the world and myself. It was very Carl Weathers. You could tell he directed that scene.
I really like that because and like you said, I watched that episode twice now, and I've laughed both times. I can't wait for more memes on that scene. Baby Yoda putting the wires together. You just get a really good view of how crappily to put together the Razor Crest was. The lighting was just weird on Trask. It was a little bit darker, I felt like, with the ocean and all that stuff. But then when you're on Navarro, it's a lot lighter, and you can really see how crappily thrown together the Razor Crest's holes and all that stuff are.
And I like that because it does remind me a lot of the Falcon in a lot of ways. A bucket of bolts thrown together that somehow flies. And flies very well. The things that he can pull off of that ship are amazing. What I liked about it, going back to the parenting idea that we've been continuously discussing, I didn't understand at first if it felt more or less like a parenting moment because he's basically just finding a little kid to go and do his work. My dad always asked me as a kid to go and help him fix like a car or the boat because I can fit into smaller places. This kind of reminded me of that in a way, like something that my dad would have literally asked me to do. Hey, can you go back there and like attach the wires together for me? But he actually understands where to exactly put things and do what he's telling him to.
I always forget about that scene after that. When they're sitting in the hold, you see Din's chin, him lifting up the helmet and stuff like that, him being comfortable around the child some more, making that family unit, I guess, is interesting to see that. So it goes from that moment to then the like super intimate moment before they go to Navarro.
I liked it. I just liked the depiction of that scene from an almost artistic perspective. The two of them sitting there drinking together. It's a
Yeah.
very father-son moment. It's almost like you said, he's becoming more and more comfortable, even with taking his mask partially off. So maybe that's almost a hint for the future. Could he eventually, gradually over the course, be willing to take that fully off?
So we'll see when he meets Sabine next week.
We're really gonna think that. I don't want
She's there.
to.
Her and Rex and Jason Sindula
No.
and
No.
yeah.
No.
And Chopper
No.
and
No.
yeah.
No. No. No.
And Farmer Thrawn with a blue beard. Would you like a Jogan fruit? I've calculated the best way to grow Jogan fruit, and this is the prime example.
We're headed down a dark path.
And we're not even halfway through this episode yet.
Here's my thing with it. Here's my comparison. Here's my analogy. You know Halloween night when you get all your candy in your bucket, right? You just have your spoils Halloween night. You dump them on the carpet and you start eating all this candy. You get this crazy sugar rush and you feel sick afterwards. Initially, it felt really good, but then you just felt sick and you're throwing up the rest of the night. And your mom's like, I told you not to eat all that candy. That's how this feels. This is a sugar rush of Star Wars animated characters that we're getting in live action if that happens. If we get all these characters in the upcoming episodes, I don't think I can handle it. Not all at once.
Yeah, the more I've thought about it, the more I am happy with Ahsoka not being able to take the child because she is going on the mission to find Ezra. That's the only way I can think about.
They already did that. I swear.
No, it doesn't have a timeline at the epilogue of Rebels. They just say it's after the Battle of Endor. It doesn't say when it is. So I really think she hasn't gone on that mission yet.
Here's my prediction. You know what? If you're going to say that, if that's true, here's my prediction. She will get into that Jedi shuttle and go off to Sabine at the end of that episode. So we don't have to see Sabine.
Sounds good to me.
And Rex is with Hera. So
Is he? He's not piloting the ship?
He's not. In the epilogue to Rebels, wasn't he with Hera?
They said that he fought in the Battle of Endor with Hera, but
for some reason I pictured him in the ship. I don't know why, but you're right. They did say that. It was just my false memory.
It's all right. Bernstein Bears, Mandela effect.
I think we will see Rex, though.
I'd be fine with Rex in one episode doing something. It's awesome to see a live action Rex.
They have Tamara Morrison already. That's what I'm thinking. They already have that character. It's a missed opportunity if they don't put Rex in at this point.
We're way ahead of where we're supposed to be right now, so
that's okay. We're allowed to be.
What do you think about like revitalized Navarro and what Grief Karga and Cara Dune have done to the place?
It's interesting. Something about it doesn't feel completely right. I got that vibe throughout the episode. I don't think that you can take a town full of criminals that's completely made up of criminals and integrate them into a society like this and have it be all okay. And clearly we see that in the episode because there's that spy almost character that ends up turning them in to the Empire.
Yeah, the informant or whatever. It was great to see that. That's a character design from Solo. It was great to see that alien, the Mimbanese character from deleted scenes from Solo. They're the aliens. Han Solo's in the Imperial Army on Mimban. They're the natives that they're fighting.
Gotcha.
Those red aliens. That's also an alien in Squadrons. The one character with one arm.
Okay, that's why it was familiar to me. I was like, I've seen this alien character somewhere before. It was Squadrons. You're right.
It was neat to see that alien model used in something else. The thing that I loved, and I didn't catch in my first viewing, was the IG-11 statue in the town square in Navarro outside the bar where they had the big firefight.
I wish they would have almost pointed that out a bit more. I don't know if that would have been too fan service. Yeah. Might have taken you out of it a bit, but I did like it. I actually saw that on a TikTok when I was scrolling through my feed. That's how I learned about it. I didn't catch it either in the background. Same with Captain Blue Jeans, but we can get into that later. It feels like something's off to me on this planet. Within the music, within the vibe of the way people are talking, turning the bar into a school. I don't know how I feel about that.
I definitely think it was an interesting move to go that far. And I think like the symbology of showing the school in the bar where the huge final battle was last season was a good move. Even though I'm pretty sure I thought the place burned down because of the flame trooper.
They had this amazing remodeler come in from
the
Extreme
property builders.
Makeover, or on HGTV, and they go in and they're like, okay, look at this. We can upgrade everything.
New cabinets, everything. Our girlfriends make us watch way too much HGTV.
I like a little bit of it, but I can't take it in large doses.
Well, after 6 hours of watching people make things out of barnwood, I get...
Hey, it's in, Sam. It's what's in.
Then unnamed Mithril comes back. And I haven't heard your review of him this episode yet. So
he is better. I will say he's better. He's not great. He still throws me off every time I see him, but he's better. He has a character now, it feels like. He's very sheepish, self-interested, and doesn't play well with others like Iron Man.
I thought he was the traitor. I really thought he was selling Mando out. The way that sometimes the camera lingered on him when he was driving the speeder and he looked back every once in a while, I thought, oh my gosh, at the end when he knew there was a traitor, I could see it being the Mithril, and then it was the Membanese character, and I was like, okay, well, the camera lingered on that technician as well, so I understand.
But maybe that's why they acted that way. That makes more sense to me from a directing perspective. Like, something doesn't feel right the whole time. You're right. There is this informant on the planet. It's almost, I don't know, something felt off in the whole episode because the camera lingered on everybody, and I couldn't put my finger on it. The camera lingered down on the Aqualish at the end of their fight with Cara Dune.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
What was the point behind that? The camera was lingering the whole episode, and I think that was my problem with it, actually.
And maybe that's just Carl Weathers being a new director. You know, I don't know. The
camera lingers on everything you see.
If you're getting this message, you'll know that I'm alive and that I'm the director.
The camera's lingering on me. How weird would it be to be the director of that episode and also be acting in it as much as he was? I don't know if that's because he was the director. More of me in the episode.
Clint Eastwood and Robert Redford and those actors, they direct a lot of their own movies that they're in. I think it's those people who are older in Hollywood that kind of do that. Yeah, maybe he's trying to do that. He's trying to jumpstart his career. So what do you think of the design of the base, though? And it being in the canyon in there and all that stuff? What do you think of that overall? Everything from the land speeder to getting to the back to tanks.
I liked it. It felt to me what it should be. It's what we saw from the trailers. It's Imperial. It's pretty much the same, similar design with everything. I liked that it felt older, having the speeders parked in there, having that troop transport. I liked that being there and how Mithril gushes over it.
I didn't even see the speeder bikes in the main door there the first time I watched it. The first time I watched it, I was like, why are there speeder bikes flying out of the hallway? Why are they parked in the bay? And the second time I said, oh, okay, they're parked right there outside.
Well, what confused me is watching it on the second time, I realized that when they're driving the troop transport, they're wanting to go inside the base at first, and then they turn around and go off the cliff. I didn't understand that. Why would they want to go back inside the base? And they're like, oh, crap, we can't go that way. We have to turn the whole way around. I didn't really get that.
Maybe they thought there was another exit. I don't know. I think it's funny. I just thought about them building the base. I could imagine oh, right, we're building this base here. Well, make sure we have a giant tube with lava at the bottom of it so that we can, probably the whole planet's a volcano is what I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Anything you build underground, but
that makes more sense. Or maybe somehow it almost powers the base and they thought that it would be a better idea to make it next to a source like that. It was obviously connected to it because they ruptured it. That's how they were able to blow it up. It's hard for us to look at things from such a technical perspective because everything in Star Wars shouldn't make sense in reality, but it does for their galaxy far, far away. I think that we need to suspend our disbelief to it.
Oh, yeah. But how do you feel about them stumbling up upon the scientists? What did you think was going on when they came upon those? Before you saw the back to tanks, what do you think, running down that hallway and just running into it?
The problem that I'm having is, from the story, it was okay. I liked it. I couldn't see the back to tanks well enough. That was my problem. And I figured by them showing in the recap from last season, showing the doctor as much as they did, showing Baby Yoda under that contraption that was, now we know, taking blood out, I kind of expected to have some sort of conclusion to why they want him, or to at least give us some more information. So I suppose I wasn't surprised about it, is what I'm trying to explain. But I wish they would have given us more detail, because it just continues the mystery for me. And maybe you have a better read on it than I do. I couldn't even see into the back to tanks. All I saw was like just bodies kind of there. I couldn't make out what kind of characters they were at all.
First, you talk about the recap. I've been skipping through the recap the last 2 weeks, and it really helps me to not
I need to do
see the
that.
recap. And the second time watching it, I watched the recap. I'm really glad I didn't, because I would have gotten the Dr. Pershing. I would have thought, okay, it starts out, the Mithril's in it because he's the beginning
That's
of it.
fine. Yeah.
I would have ruined it for me to see Dr. Pershing in my mind the whole time. I would have thought, okay, they're going to do something with the child here.
That's basically what happened to me. Yeah, that was my
Yeah,
experience.
and so for me, it was a surprise them running into. I thought, okay, they're out of the base, no problem, and then maybe Moff Gideon will show up or something. But for them to do something with Dr. Pershing actually took me back a little bit. But as far as the individuals in the back to tank, I think that people are saying it's Palpatine. I don't think it's Palpatine, but there are growths on those people in the back to tank, and his message talks about midichlorian count. So I think that, not to say I was right about my theory, but
I want you to. I like the theory.
It looks like he's extracting blood and putting it in himself, or making like a super soldier serum.
And that was part of the ending to me, not to get too ahead of ourselves, but it kind of all ties together, right? The droids he's making at the end, maybe somehow they're fueled by metachlorians, or it felt like it was almost disconnected for me. Because the ending, you see all these droids in the hallway on both sides of him, and these scientists like individuals around. It almost felt like that has something to do with it, but yet it doesn't make sense for it to.
I did a deep canon dive after the episode finished. Those characters are dark troopers from the old canon. They were in video games and books, and they were characters that were fueled by force sensitive blood. There were two different variations of them. Some were like super battle droids that were designed to be enforcers and just follow programming. Other ones were partly organic, and they were injected with force blood. So it sounds like they're combining those two to try to, make these super soldiers that Gideon needs.
I like that then. I'm all for that then, because, and we've talked about this so many times, it's making so many people happy. This show is doing wonders for the Star Wars fan base. It's bringing people together. If you're not going to go off talking about Bo-Katan's chest armor or Baby Yoda eating frog eggs, anywho, that's another rant. Truly, like, being able to have EU Legends stories play a pivotal role in something like this is making people happy. Someone out there who really liked that storyline, and I'm all for that, and I'm sure they're going to do it justice, just as they've done these other characters that they brought in, like Bo-Katan.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm definitely happy to see other fans who knew what this was. Even though I had to do research about it, I'm happy that it's something in canon. When Bo-Katan made that reference in the last episode about Ahsoka's location, I'm always looking for what is a planet. I spend an hour after almost every episode on Wikipedia deep diving into what is in the episode, what are some connections to other stuff. So do you think that this is going to take us to Kamino in any way? With these Kamino cloners?
Did that have anything to do with those dark troopers in Legends?
That was before Kamino existed.
Really? So this is way back EU.
This is the 90s, yeah.
I like that even more then. I do. Because that's when Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni were hardcore Star Wars fans. That's the era they grew up in. So, of course, they're going to bring that storyline into a show like this. And, okay, now I'm excited. You have me on board.
Yeah.
I'm all for it now. Yeah. I don't think that Kamino will matter at all going forward. I don't think they're trying to clone people, or are they? It didn't feel that way.
I think they're trying to clone blood. Like, they're trying to clone force sensitivity. And that is something I think slightly different than actual cloning an entire organism. You're trying to clone the life force in them. Now, the sad thing is, maybe Ahsoka will talk about it. Maybe Moff Gideon could have the force if he could just find it in him to be at peace. And that's what this new era of Star Wars is saying. Everyone has the force. You just have to be at peace with the universe around you, and then you're able to find this new level of yourself.
For people who don't understand like midichlorians, the way I look at it is it's potential to use the force, not your ability to. Two different things.
I've seen people talking about, as far as Kamino goes, people saying, well, it's a hidden planet. Kamino had a senator in the Clone Wars, so it's not a hidden planet anymore.
Not anymore.
Everyone knows about it after the Clone Wars, I feel like. Before the Clone Wars, for sure, it was a hidden planet, but now, and so maybe the Empire took control of it, so maybe they have officers, like they can just pull scientists from Camino for other projects.
I think we'll go to Mandalore before we go to Camino.
I don't personally want to go to Camino.
I just don't see how it plays into the story.
And I don't either. I heard other podcasters saying, well, I want to see Boba Fett and the Mandalorian fight on a landing platform on Camino. I was like, that's a really far Easter egg stretch for me.
Here's what the Star Wars community needs to understand. You can't just will your dreams to happen. Like, that would be cool to watch. Maybe. But it has to fit into a story. You can't just will your Star Wars fantasies to be in existence. People need to get a grip. I hate to say it.
We've talked about Dark Troopers now. What about getting out of the lab, then blowing up the lab and going in through the canyon, that chase through the canyon and the TIE fighter fight? What do you think about that stuff?
I liked all the action sequences for this episode. Nothing really left me wanting more, I suppose.
Yeah.
I specifically was interested in going back to the tank room, the guys at the controls. That was like a separate remote that he was using. It looked like he was playing video games for a second. I don't know if you saw what I'm talking about. It's almost like he's holding some sort of game controller that he was using to go through the information and delete files or something. And they were confused on what they were doing because they were shooting at Mando and then they were also shooting at the stuff. And then they turned to shoot at Mando. Imperials just are awful at fighting either way. Another thing that I noticed upon rewatching, the stormtroopers that are chasing Mando and then go to where they ruptured the system, they try to shut it down, but I guess they're not successful with it. From a story perspective, I guess I'm confused as to why we needed that moment with them going to try to shut it down. Maybe it was just to be a part of the action as they watch another stormtrooper fall. Specifically, I thought the moment with Mando shooting up with his jetpack above the volcano and shooting all those troopers at once was amazing.
So they said they drained all the coolant out. So in my mind, that was saying that they couldn't get it back in. In my mind, that's what happened. But it was cool to see the gun turret on the back of the troop transport. I thought that was some pretty neat stuff, and like the switches and all that stuff. That was pretty neat. That was a fun chase. And like you said before, the stakes were realistic enough that you knew that the heroes were going to get out. It was a fun chase scene.
What I enjoy more than anything is I don't think that we specifically do know that the heroes make it out of these action sequences because they're not in other canon material. It felt like for Mando, the stakes were high. I almost half expected him to go back and Baby Yoda to be gone. It felt like it mattered. Even though it wasn't true that there was really no threat to the child, it felt like Mando cared enough about him to really zoom out of there and do his darndest to kill all the Imperials on the way. And I expected it to happen. Of course, it was the perfect moment when Mando comes in and saves the day. I was just waiting for that Razor Crest to come out of the sky as soon as I saw those TIE fighters. I'm like, I feel like they don't cover their tracks very well with writing these stories. But I'm okay with that because it's well done and it's something that I would want to see. If I can expect something to happen, that means I want to see it happen.
And even though we saw the visual of the TIE Outlanders taking off in the trailer, it was still a great visual to see those. I love that design. That's a really neat design of that. The folding wings and all that stuff was really neat to see that as well.
Which Doug Chang, I think, talked about in the gallery.
He said that was an unused concept from The Force Awakens, I believe, right?
Yes. Which I do have the Force Awakens art of book, and I remember seeing that design in there. So that is pretty cool to have reference from other things, like that alien creature that we were talking about, the Mimban. I love it when they can reuse artwork or other creature characters.
Like the Death Star and Rise of Skywalker. That was awesome.
Being from episode 7.
I remember when that book came out, you and I talked how neat that would have been. And then 3 years later, we saw it.
And that's why I like seeing the troop transport as well, because you get an HD quality look at a live action version of that thing. It's not the Rebels version. I like that it was in that show, yes. But I think for older fans who really did play with the Kenner toys and had them growing up, it's really cool to see that.
What do you think about the Baby Yoda moments in this episode between the macaroons in the classroom and then him on the roller coaster ride of the Razor Crest?
My favorite Baby Yoda moment was in the beginning with Mando. That's the moments I really enjoy with Baby Yoda. The classroom was a bit much for me because it didn't add anything to the character. Neither did the spit up thing. If anything, the roller coaster ride on the Razor Crest was more of a parenting moment for Mando, which I could appreciate. actually seeing him do something that like a parent would do, which is clean up baby spit. That's fair. And I think the macaroons in the story were to allow that moment to happen. It was cute, but I'd rather get on with the story.
I do think that it did help with Baby Yoda's overall demeanor, I guess. It's making him seem more of like, not a bully, but like he's going to take what he wants and he has these special powers that he can take what he wants. So that's the way I kind of saw it.
Interesting.
I didn't see that the first time I watched it, but the second time I noticed it more and I thought, this kid's saying, no, don't take my stuff. And Baby Yoda said, well, I have the special power. I'm going to take it whether you want me to or not. So
interesting.
I thought those was a nice hint into something of like, he's not with his dad anymore. And this is how he interacts with people when he's not with his dad.
Huh.
So,
that's a fair point.
yeah.
I didn't look at it like that, but I do like that perspective. I like that a lot. What I thought the first time when I saw the classroom scene, I thought the other kids were going to start making fun of Baby Yoda and like pulling on his ears. It's like the new kid in class. He's different than us.
And he's the only alien. They're all human kids. I thought maybe there'd be one alien. I was like, oh man, there's not even a keynote alien like a week away in episode 9.
We need some diversity in our kids. Bring in the weak ways.
Yeah, or even like a quacking monkey lizard kid. I don't know. But
I was listening to that droid in the background talk about the Hosnian sector. I don't know if you were the same way.
The Hydian way, which was made canon by Plo Koon in the Clone Wars. I know. I remember hearing Plo Koon speak that line about the Hydian way.
I can now. It's auditorily in my head. Oh no, you did it now. Oh, I thought that was cool that they integrated that in it, and you really have to pay attention to what that droid's saying in the background to pick up on those things.
Easter eggs for people who don't really pay attention as much to the story as we do the Easter eggs. And the
second watch. The second watch allows you to do that.
Help me pick up the IG-11 statue. So
yeah, or Captain Blue Jeans. So if you go to,
let's talk about him.
Let me find the exact timestamp from the episode. So if you go to 1854, the timestamp of this episode, you will find Captain Blue Jeans, which is a crew member in the background that editing had missed. Or maybe they didn't miss. Maybe this is actually a Star Wars character that we don't know about yet. But you can see from the corridor a pant leg coming out with blue jeans and a hand as they're walking down the hallway on the left side of Cara Dune and Grief Karga, blasting some stormtroopers. So I would hate to be that editor right now. I'm sure he either lost his job or got a demotion. As an editor myself, when I edit these podcasts even, I notice mistakes that are made. Just like me spelling Mandalorian wrong for the last 4 podcast episodes that we've created, which is fine. Not an important word at all. Not for the YouTube algorithm. I understand the frustration. So I'm wondering if they will fix it now that fans have seen it, or if they're just going to fully accept it and go with it and make it like a canon character and we can just call it.
Oh, I hope to the Lord that it becomes a canon character. I would love that so much. It's actually George Lucas. It's Baron Papanoida, and he is there on this base because it's actually George Lucas walking around. Does anyone have a Diet Coke around here? I'm lost.
Was he on set that day? I'm wondering because you said when
he was on set last episode. I know that for sure.
Maybe that was like a reshoot.
They couldn't tell George Lucas to get out from behind Carl Weathers and Gina Carano. They're just like, yeah, we won't tell him. We won't tell him that he's in the episode. It's like the Stan Lee cameos in the back, and like at the very end of the credits, it's like, and starring George Lucas as himself.
He's just sitting in a lawn chair on Navarro with a Coke can, sipping it as the Razor Crest flies by. And there's like a little umbrella in his Coke can. He has sunglasses on, wearing a Hawaiian shirt. Retirement.
And then the Razor Crest flies right over him, like the umbrella flies off.
Yes. Hire us. We will direct a future episode of The Mandalorian.
Have you seen the SNL skit? I think it's Force Awakens auditions. And they have George Lucas, and it's like him using the Force. You will bring me a Diet Coke. Like, sir, we only have Coke Zero. Oh, okay, that's fine. Speaking of Navarro, what do you think the future of Navarro is? Are we going to see Navarro again? Are we going to see Carl Weathers again? Or Grief Karga, Cara Dune? And that kind of leads in with the New Republic pilot interview at the end. That like first epilogue to the episode.
I think from what we've seen, in this last episode, I think we have to go to Navarro again. I don't think that it's going to be this utopian society that they want it to be. We see that with the underbelly where the Mandalorians used to hide out, with these criminals gathering under there, and the new marshal coming along. The marshal!
Oh, you mean the marshal?
Having to give the stolen goods back to the people of the planet. I got a weird vibe from Gina Carano and the way she acted, but I don't know if that was Carl Weathers directing or if I just got a weird vibe from pretty much every single character this episode. Like, something didn't feel right. It almost feels like a story beat that these characters are trying to make something beautiful out of nothing, like this perfect society. It kind of felt like, where the colors are so much more vibrant than they ever were when we saw season 1. And I don't think that it's as successful as the magistrate claims it to be. It's just like our society, propaganda and what you want to see versus what the reality of the situation is. That's my read on it. I could be completely wrong, but from the way the music and the story unfolded, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but the camera lingering paves that path, I suppose. Am I wrong? I don't know.
I didn't think that, but the more you say it, the more it clicks for me. So I think you may be on something, but it's not something we're going to see this season, I don't think. I don't know if we're going to see Grief Karga and Cara Dune again this season. I hope we do.
I think if we do, it's going to be the finale.
Yeah, and that's fine. I think that their build is such main characters. I just would like to see them some more. And like I said before earlier in the episode, all the controversy around Gina Carano.
New week, new controversy from the Mando. Every single week. Literally, they have to find something.
Yeah, but I mean, her comments and her stuff is hateful in the community, so I understand where people are coming from with the actress and things like that.
Cancel culture wants to create animosity in any community, no matter what it is. They will find something wrong with everything and what everybody says. No one is perfect in our society, and other people's beliefs can be different than our own. And the problem is that people decide that because someone has a different belief than you, they should be canceled. They should not be in higher positions. I think that's outrageous. I think that it takes people with diverse views on everything to be able to create an amazing series like this that we're seeing. I don't think they're going to get rid of the character, and I certainly don't think they're ever going to recast her. It's already done. She's already into the Star Wars universe. They're not going to do that. It's outrageous to think otherwise, I believe. Look at Chris Pratt. Look at the way Chris Pratt situation unfolded. He's not canceled.
I don't know the specifics of that. I just know that her comments about the lack of inclusivity in the community is really rough for a lot of people in the community. And I just think that's the community that we try to build here, and the community that is a Star Wars community as a whole is something that is positive and inclusive.
What's her comment?
It was very transphobic comments about people in the LGBT community. And
they were saying that months ago.
Yeah, that was months ago.
I don't know. Did it come back up this week because she was in the episode?
No, I'm saying that is something that has been an ongoing thing. People talking about as the episode comes up, they knew that she was coming. That's something that's rough to know. And it's tough for me because I also really enjoy the character and I enjoy the arc that the characters had thus far. And I'd like to see her in more content. But it's tough because of the things going on with the actress right now.
We're off the cuff. I don't even know what she even said. I don't read into those situations because, quite frankly, they're usually skewed to one side or the other, depending on whoever's trying to make the argument that they're trying to make. And everybody's going to skew everybody's words. I didn't see the actual comment, so I cannot give a full, wholehearted opinion about it. But what I am saying is that people are innately jealous and hateful about others in life, and they will read into things that other people say. We all have unique views and perspectives in society, and I think we're allowed to have them. It's what makes us a free society. If someone even has a slight comment that they make, I don't think that they should ever be canceled because of it.
We'll see what happens with the show, and I will continue to support the show as a whole. You know, we as a community support each other, and I think that's something that can outlast anything that is hateful and anything like that. So
I agree completely. It bothers me seeing every single week something new. Bo-Katan chest plate. They can't have that in Star Wars. That's sexist. No, it's something that works for the character. It's something that it's not the comics. Okay, older comics, yes, you can take that as like objectifying women a bit, right? But
yeah, it's tough to watch those early seasons of Clone Wars sometimes with Ahsoka's outfit, like a 12-year-old girl dressing like that. Like
I think you have to suspend your disbelief. You know, this is Star Wars. This is not our world. This is a different world. And I think that they have their own problems there, just as we have our own problems here. And sure, that story matters for the way we look at things in society. It also gives you a new perspective on things that we have here and our problems. The Baby Yoda thing. People are going to hate on anything that someone else enjoys. I get hate on TikTok every day from people. Do I care? No. Because I know me and I know what's true and what's not true. And people make stuff up about me all the time. That's the level that I'm speaking from, is because I know what it's like to have things said about you that just aren't true.
Oh yeah. And it's hurtful. And that's why I continue to say that I'm going to support things that are positive in this community. All right. So you ready to move on to A Certain Point of View Strikes Back?
Are you sure we're not leaving anything out? The episode length of next week is
okay. Yeah.
So extremely long.
Yeah. So skip forward 10 seconds if you don't want to hear the next week's title.
Later.
All right. So next week's episode title is called The Jedi. Episode is 58 minutes long.
It's crazy.
Which is longer than the season premiere. It's longer than any episode we've ever had of Mando. It's going to be pretty interesting, I think.
I think it's safe to say that we're going to see Oppo Rancisis as the Jedi.
Please. Please. Oh my gosh. To see him in live action again, way better than he was in Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones.
What if the Jedi isn't
Order
Ahsoka?
66. Oh,
what if the Jedi isn't? What if it's something completely different that we've never heard of? I would love it. It's not going to be that. It's going to be Ahsoka. I'm just saying, like, what if they just completely threw everybody off?
I'm telling you, Obo Rancisis has not been returned to in canon yet. He is survived Order 66. It's in the Vader comic. Or if it's Quinlan Voss, I'd be fine with that too, you know?
Yeah,
so,
totally.
A message just came up, said my girlfriend asking, so which Black Series figure are you buying for yourself on December 1st?
Someone's doing Christmas shopping.
That would be the deluxe Mandalorian figure, which I'm buying for myself when it comes on Target.com December 1st.
Which we reviewed last week, so go check out that episode if you would.
Yeah, she's actually watching last week's episode right now, so that's yeah.
Perfect.
That's where she gets all of her news, I guess, about now.
See, I wouldn't call our podcast a news source. I would just say that, like, we're opinionated individuals who like to talk about it.
What we want to talk about. I know there's other things that come out, but I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. That's Funko Pops and Legos. And
yeah, exactly. And if you are like us and you kind of have the same mindset of just wanting to hear two fanboys talk Star Wars and pop culture, you're in the right place.
Exactly. And me talk about some short stories is even crazier because that's...
Before you go into it, I am very excited for next week. Very excited. I think having Dave Filoni direct an episode is in itself going to be a good ride. And no matter what characters are involved with it, I think that justice will be served for our beloved Ahsoka Tano.
I wish that we would have gotten a tease of some kind just so I can visually get it in my mind what she looks like, just a look, just so I can sit with it for a little bit and just be like, okay, this is what she looks like. This is what, before I see her move around, before I hear her speak, just to know what she looks like. Because I remember when we watched The Force Awakens, not knowing what Luke looked like was one of those things that I remember sitting in the movie theater and Vic was sitting next to me. We had a bet when they left the Resistance base at the end of the movie. I said, does he have a beard or does he not have a beard? Because, you know, Mark Hamill had a beard in all the press and everything. He said no beard. I said beard. And then Luke Skywalker had a beard. But it was just one of those things that it's like, if we had a Luke Skywalker moment in some way, that, like, even if it was like Ahsoka feeling the presence of something after Moff Gideon, it was just like a forest planet that like zooms in and like Ahsoka opens her eyes or something like that. Like the end of Avatar. Like, I'd be fine with that.
I thought you were going to a place where Ahsoka was going to have a beard, but I'm glad that we didn't talk about that.
Wait, have you seen the meme of Ahsoka as Luke and the Mandalorian handing Baby Yoda as Rey having a lightsaber, and then Ahsoka throws the Baby Yoda over the cliff? A+ quality meme to whoever out there made that meme.
I'm excited just in general for whatever they have to offer, and I'm sure that they won't be letting us down anytime soon. So Sam, where do you think we're going to end up with Cara Dune and Greef Karga? What do you think will be their character arc going forward? with that resistance pilot coming in and questioning them.
I want to get back to what he puts on the table. I was a little confused about that. I loved that scene. I think it was a very interesting like epilogue to like a Western. I don't know if you've seen the movie The Outlaw Josie Wales.
Mm-mm.
In the final scene, there's these Texas Rangers who are looking for this runaway Confederate character played by Clint Eastwood named Josie Wales. Josie Wales goes into this bar and all of his friends are in the bar. And this abandoned town, there's only like 6 people that live in there. And he walks in the bar and the Texas Rangers are in there talking to his friends. And they're like, "Oh, Mr. Wilson." And they're like talking the story about how outlaw Josie Wales was gunned down. He's dead and everything like that. But he's standing right there in the room. I kind of compared that scene at the end to the scene in Outlaw Josie Wales where,
Gotcha.
you know, the law is there. But like Brief Cargo's like, Razor Crest, I don't even know what you're talking about, you know? And that's like, you know, the friends all are kind of keeping the secret all amongst themselves. And the law is like, well, you know, we're going to catch up to you someday, but for now we have to believe you because this is the Wild West. Cara Dune, I'm not sure with that character where she would go. I have hope for it, but I don't know if she would rejoin the New Republic or what. But
I think that's the choice. I think that's the choice he presents to her. It's almost like in that moment he could feel for her and her loss. Her loss was what drove her to seeking out a new life for herself, I suppose. And the way I took it was, I don't know what that medal was that he put there. I assumed it was almost like a Purple Heart in our military, but it was almost like if you lost someone during Alderaan or if you served during Alderaan, you get like a specific medal for like surviving that.
I thought it was like a hood ornament because it looked really big. Like compared to everything else, I was like, why is it so big? Like it had like the 4 holes in each. Like I was like, do you put this on like the hood of your starship, like on your land speeder? Like
I almost took it as like you put it on that armor piece, but like her shoulder armor, basically. I felt like she could like put that there,
like the mud horn on the randos.
Yes, exactly. Like military people today, they have like patches sewn into their uniform. I feel like that could be similar in the Star Wars universe. I guess I made that inference because he was talking about Alderaan at the same time that he gave that to her. So that's why I made that connection in my brain. I don't know if that's true or not. They never said. So all we can do is drop our inferences.
I'd love to see more of that pilot. I'm liking him more and more as an actor.
Was that the same one from the Spider episode?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Dave Filoni's X-Wing was there, but he didn't show up, which I thought he would. But I was like, they don't trust him outside the cockpit. When they were shooting the spiders, they didn't even let him leave the cockpit. Oh. Yeah, Dave, you can't leave.
I do feel like the way you explained it was very well put. The law is almost trying to catch up. You have all these characters that are going after Mando now. And I think that's really cool that he has made enemies and friends along the way through the adventures that he has. I like that.
Yeah, and they're just one step behind him. And the Outlaw Josie Wales is the same way. They're just one step behind him every single time.
I feel like by the end, they might catch up to Mando before the Empire does.
He has to meet with Mon Mothma. Who knows?
What about Grief Karga, though? What do you think the future holds for that character?
I think it has to do a lot with the future of Navarro is. I think that if it is like a failing state and is just like a facade, like you theorize, he may be down in the dumps again next time we see him.
Sure.
But I would love to see his character do well and continue to show up again. I really enjoy Carl Weathers as an actor. My prediction at the beginning of the season was that Grief Karga was going to die. I'm glad that he didn't because I think that there's a lot of room for his character to grow.
I think he's now more tied closely to Mithril. I think they're like a dynamic duo going forward. And my prediction is that Cara Dune will eventually join the New Republic.
That's fair. That definitely could happen.
I feel like she's going to do a complete 180. Or either that or she completely rejects that past and forges a new future with Mando.
I still think he's going to go back to the Sorghum planet and go drink spotchka with that old widow.
Yeah, I think that's where Mando's going to end up at the very end. But I think that everybody also needs their friends. For a love interest, he's going to end up with the widow.
And I thought it was cool, the time jump. As we talked about in our hype video, we talked about Carl Weathers' beard being like a measurement of time. And I think that did help with some time has passed and like his beard is now white. Some time has passed and he was like the regal kind of leader, which was nice to see. So
yeah. I thought that his acting, as always, was on point. So go ahead, get into a certain point of view. Here we go, everyone. Here we go.
So I read the middle third of the book this week.
You're telling me we're gonna have one last?
Next week we have one last one. If anyone has lasted this long in the episode, this week was not as good as last week. I will disclaimer that.
So does that mean that I will like it more?
I don't know. So we talked about let me double check my notes from last week. We talked about Palpatine.
We talked about Palpatine, Wampas, Tauntauns that kill themselves apparently.
The Exegorth that wants a community inside of it. This week focused on the asteroid belts, the bounty hunters, a lot of bounty hunter stuff, and a lot of Cloud City stuff. The first story is Bosk. So Bosk is a Trandoshan bounty hunter who hunts Wookiees. As he gets the message to go to the Star Destroyer to meet with Darth Vader, he is hunting down a slave ship of Wookiees and this infamous Wookie liberator. And he gets on the ship and finds out that it is his sister. His whole life had been told that he had eaten all the other eggs in his clutch. In fact, one of the other eggs in the clutch had survived, and she was sold to Wookiees and raised by Wookiees, and she is now a Wookiee liberator. And she makes him make a pledge that he'll never hunt Wookiees again. That is why he doesn't really search hard for Chewbacca, even though Chewbacca is like his super enemy or something like that. This was a kind of a tough one for me to get involved in because it was very still the General Veer story is still number one for me right now. This one was very very interesting.
The way I look at it, if I can't picture it happening in live action, it shouldn't happen.
Yeah, it was interesting because the Wookiee ship that he went on was made of wood. This chapter talked a lot about Wookie culture as a whole, which I thought was really interesting. It talked about their connection to nature. Like the ship was made of wood, and then it had little trees growing inside of it, and like animals and rodents and stuff in the ship. So like it showed their connection, and it said if there would damage to the ship, they would cut off a piece of the tree inside the ship and use it to repair the ship. And they didn't use a lot of technology in the actual ships most of the time. So that was interesting to hear about that part of Wookie culture.
But and that goes back to Clone Wars as well, with not only the Wookiee youngling, what was his name? Gunji, having a wooden lightsaber. And in the unfinished episodes that we got concept art for, we have the Wookiee, I think it was Tarful, connecting to the tree. So that goes back to those ideas in Clone Wars, which I can appreciate. I don't need Bosk's sister.
She's in an electro, like one of those chairs that the Nemoidians have, and she only has one arm. She's missing both of her legs and her arm because Bosk ate them when he was an infant. Oh, it's rough. It's rough. These are. I'm giving you some of the best ones that I just love to hate.
That was one of the best.
These are the ones I remember from this week. I'm telling you, like it was very unforgettable stories that I wasn't super passionate. Like
that's unforgettable.
The Hoth ones were way better. The next one is about Dengar and IG-88 working together.
Okay, I can get on board with this, maybe.
Boba Fett gives them these coordinates to all the other bounty hunters and says, okay, let's all kind of work together and search this area. And so they go to this asteroid belt. It's all this wreckage from the Clone Wars stuff. And they're going through the wreckage. They pick up a modified YT freighter, Corellian YT freighter in there. And they think, okay, we have the Millennium Falcon. Turns out that it's not the Millennium Falcon. It's a gambling ship that the Hutts own or something. And they board it. Yeah, they board it and they just pretty much extort them for their money and then they leave. And Dengar is like, this was a win. And IG-88 is like, no, it's not a win. And then they find out that Boba Fett got Han Solo. And that's pretty much it. It had a lot of potential and it...
That was the way I just reacted to it too. So
yeah.
It just seems not essential.
Yeah, it's okay. We're gonna build up to the best ones here. At the end here will be the best stories. The best one that I can remember from what I read this week.
Okay.
The next one is Ugnaughts escaping Cloud City. It was super short and super uneventful. It was just Ugnaughts running around because they needed to escape and they were lower level beings in Cloud City. And then when Lando said to evacuate, they needed to find a ship. Not very exciting.
If one of them would have been Hondo's Ugnaught, that would have made it worth it.
To me, if it was Queel, it would have been worth it.
Well, Queel's an indentured servant.
Yeah, he could have been on Cloud City and indentured servant on Cloud City.
To the Empire? I mean, I guess that might have worked. It would have been a little far off.
There's still more to read. I could have not read that yet. But we'll see. The next chapter I'm reading is about L3 and the Falcon. So next week, tune in for that. The other chapter, do you remember Jax? You know who Jax is? He's that green rabbit.
You lost me.
He's from the EU. He's been recently recanonized in the Star Wars Adventures comics line. His skeleton was an Easter egg in the episode Into the Void in the Clone Wars. In that shuttle that's in the middle of the desert, there's a rabbit skeleton in there as like a nod to Jax. He's a smuggler with Lando.
You know what came up?
And what?
The clone cadet Jax from with Boba Fett.
It's Jaxx, I believe, is how it's spelled. Just
Okay.
Jax Rabbit. Yeah. There's one author, I can't remember his name, and he really enjoys Jax, and so he's been trying to incorporate him into as much material as he can.
I don't even think
And
I
so-
can find it. Oh, this guy. Okay, I've never seen this before. Never in my life
Yeah.
have I seen this. Where was he integrated into canon?
The Star Wars Adventures line of comics recently. It was within the last 2 years. The ones that are more focused for kids.
Yeah, the
And,
IDW comics. Yes.
He has adventures with Lando in those stories. Anyway, in this book, in this chapter of this short story, he wants a meeting with Lando, and Lando is preoccupied, and Jax can't understand why. He thinks Lando is like conning him or something like that. And he doesn't realize that Lando is dealing with the Empire. And so Jax kind of starts snooping around in Cloud City. He's like, oh, he's meeting with a big person in the dining room. I'm going to beat him there, like crash his dinner, and then meet with this person and try to get a big investment because I want, more money for my smuggling
boy.
operation. So he goes in, finds Darth Vader, and runs out, and the stormtroopers chase him through Cloud City. He breaks into Lando's office and steals these like really expensive crystals or something like that. It would like fund him forever. He is chased again by stormtroopers in this cleaning closet, and he finds these little tiny aliens, like this alien family, and he chooses to leave the crystals and pick up the alien family, and they rush
What?
out back onto his ship. In the beginning, he's like completely selfish and he just wants to like take people's money and stuff, and then he saves the people and provides humanitarian transport for them.
Where did he find the aliens?
They were hiding in a room closet. They were on Cloud City because Lando was going to transport them, but because Lando got disposed from his position. It was an interesting little short story. I didn't know much about the character of Jax, and
I think it's always cool to integrate a character into canon. I don't mind it from what you're telling me. It's a little strange, but every story is a little strange. Maybe I'm just getting used to that.
The next one is about the chef on Cloud City who made the meal in the dining room. Her name is Toro, which is just a great flashback to Toro Calican from The Mandalorian. Pretty much she's a high-end chef. She doesn't know what to make Darth Vader for food because he can't eat. And it was like a lighthearted thing. And then the Ugnaught, her assistant who's helping her make the food, is like, we should poison him. And she's like, I could poison him, but if we do and we fail, then we're going to be dead. It took a turn like I didn't expect it to take.
I was immediately going to ask you, do they poison him?
I think they do poison it, but as they're getting ready to take the food out, Han Solo shows up and starts shooting. It kind of messes everything up. But there is food on the table, like they have the appetizers out or whatever. But the best story I've read this week, it's two different ones, but they're back to back. It involves Boba Fett and his adventures on how he gets Slave One into the trash that then floats out of the Star Destroyer. Earlier, I said he sends the other bounty hunters coordinates.
Yes.
And so when they all leave the Star Destroyer, they all jump, and Boba jumps out and then jumps right back to the fleet. And he says that he has a coolant issue or something like that. He lands in the Star Destroyer, and then they can't find him anywhere, so they just throw his Slave One in the trash. The Empire has rules, I guess, about transporting civilian vehicles when they're driving in hyperspace. They don't want to be like a taxi service or something like that. So they put Slave One in the trash. And then the next short story picks up as an Imperial officer who's in charge of waste and everything. He's looking for a promotion and everything, and he keeps getting denied. He sees the Millennium Falcon on the back of the Star Destroyer, and then he turns around and Boba Fett's there. And he tells Boba Fett that they could half it, the reward for the Millennium Falcon, because he found it and all that stuff. Boba Fett knocks the officer out and stuffs him into a shuttle that's in the trash. And the guy wakes up. It was very tense for me. I was listening to the audiobook, and this Imperial officer is stuck in like a shuttle Tidarium, like banging on the windshield, and his friends are up in the control tower, and they're getting ready to push the big button to open up the door to launch everything into space. And it was just so tense, and he ends up dying in the end because his greed and all that stuff. So it was a really interesting story. And then he watches Slave One drift out and the Millennium Falcon come off the thing, and then he kind of just blacks out.
My big question is, how do they get Slave One into the trash?
You remember in the episode Brain Invaders in Clone Wars, they have the tugs that guide the ship into the thing. They said that they have these tugs that they use for large trash. Like if they have a wrecked shuttle or a TIE fighter or something like that, to move it from like the underbelly bay or the side bays out and through space and then into the trash area in the back. And then they said in the back, they deconstruct ships and use it to build other stuff.
So trash can go both ways through that then. I
Mhm.
guess, why did they leave it go? Why did they leave trash out into space in that moment?
Because they didn't want to carry it all. It's like all useless stuff they don't have to use anymore. They take like the side panels off TIE fighters that still work, and then they can use them for other stuff. The ships are so disposable, I guess, in the
Okay.
Empire.
Okay.
So
Okay. You have me a bit more on board.
yeah, it was a very interesting read, and I felt for the Imperial officer who was going through all that.
Sure.
And
Sure.
it made Boba Fett more of a threat as well, and something that he isn't always.
I don't think that in canon he's ever shown as being a huge threat in any way, being that he gets
Yeah,
almost killed by a blind guy. So I guess my question is, Sam, will they have a story about the guy who is in the area where C-3PO goes and he's like, "Who are you?" I want that character to have a story.
not yet. I'm not sure where I am exactly in the timeline right now. I know I haven't read the Wilroad Hood story, which I'm looking forward to. I know he's going to Batuu. He's taking that ice cream maker to Batuu. And so I really want to know what that story is about. I haven't been spoiled on it yet, so I'm excited to hear that. And the L3 story is going to be interesting as well. Her interacting with the other two
Yeah.
brains in the Falcons.
It's a little weird, a little wacky, but it could be interesting.
Yeah, so next week's going to be a long show. We're going to be talking about Ahsoka and talking about the rest of the Certain Point of View Strikes Back.
Anything else for the episode, for the good of the order?
No, I think we covered a lot of ground tonight. It's going to be another long episode this week. If you have any questions, we love to talk about stuff in the comments with you. If you have any theories, next week will be a pretty big episode. So leave your comments and questions, crazy theories, emotional baggage, whatever you want to do. We'll be answering it. We'll pick someone to talk about their comment in the video. Yeah, like, subscribe.
You can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and of course YouTube, all under the username Matt Mellish. And this guy will tell you where you can find him at.
You can find me at SG Sketches and Stuff on Instagram. There, I just post my random sketches, my art that I do through the week. I'm be doing a lot more of it now. I love to do commissions and that kind of stuff. So feel free to hit me up on there, and I'm on here on the podcast. Well,
Awesome.
Matt, it's been a great week, and I'm glad to have talked about this stuff with you. And I look forward to talking to you next week.
As always, thank you so much, Sam. Thank you to everyone who made it this far and watched this video. May the Force be with you always.
Bye.